Shadow Bolt, Soulfire, cheapens and cast damage, and let's go for Combat Soul Harvest. Okay, this is interesting. You may not use Soul Harvest while in combat. Okay, so you can't use Soul Harvest at all while in combat. It says best used if used out of combat. I figured that that would mean that you just got a penalty, like you know, 2 shards being refreshed instead of 3, but apparently you're not allowed to use it in combat at all. So my question is, what's going to happen when you get into a prolonged boss fight? Personally, I think that, you know, the way it should work is they just regenerate slower if you're in combat. So, Okay, Drain Soul. Deals low damage to your enemy and attempts to steal their soul. If the victim dies while Drain Soul is active, you will regain all of your soul shards. Must be channeled to maintain. I heard something about combat regeneration of soul shards via the use of Drain Soul. So let's take a look into that. Will that happen? Will I get anything back throughout the entire course of this debuff's duration? It does not look like it. No. Okay. Out of combat, or no soul shards. And being able to drain soul is just a convenience, so that you don't have to channel it. Well, I suppose that'll be helpful when grinding, and yeah, I'm really not a big fan of how that's going to work. But yeah, now you guys know what it does. Alright, so... Okay, so guys, the next thing that I'm going to show you is the new Doomguard and the new Infernal in a combat situation against a target dummy. Now, let's see what happens. Okay, if I summon an Infernal, and then I attack, what's it do? Will it attack the target that I'm attacking, even if I don't apply one of those curses? Yes, it will. Okay, so it'll attack normally. And it does a pretty... its damage isn't that great. But the Infernal... Okay, can I recall it? Yes, I can recall it and make it stop attacking if I want to. Alright, so I can have both my combat pets out at the same time. An Infernal and whatever pet that I have. What about... This is interesting. Okay, so I summoned an Infernal, and it triggered the cooldown of the Doomguard. Okay. Apparently, these have a shared 10-minute cooldown. And if you summon a Doomguard or summon an Infernal, the other one's cooldown is triggered automatically. I'm also a bit skeptical about that, because that's pretty much going to mean that one's dominant over the other. I don't know. I can't say that for sure, though, because I haven't tested the new Doomguard yet to see if it's been nerfed, but everybody knows that the Infernal's not been as powerful as the Doomguard in the recent history. So, I'll show you guys the Doomguard in just a minute, and we'll see what we see. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you some of the other pet changes for Warlocks. As you've probably noticed, the Imp's been changed. It has its Blood Pact, it has its Firebolt, but its whole, you know, Fire Shield thing's gone, so it can't do that anymore. And it doesn't look like it can phase shift either, so if you were an Affliction Warlock or a Warlock of any kind who liked to have your Imp phase shift so you could use him as a mana battery, he's probably not going to survive very many extended fights that do AoE damage anymore. So you may have to reconsider that. But, like I said, dip into Fel Synergy. That'll help a lot. Okay, let's pull out the next pet. Summon Voidwalker. Is there anything new with the Voidwalker? Okay, Consume Shadows. Same as always, Torment, Sacrifice, Suffering. Yeah, nothing's different here. How about the Fell Hunter? Okay. Is the Fell Hunter same as always? Yes, it is. Spell Lock, Shadow Bite, Devour Magic, Fell Intelligence. There's been a change to the Succubus, though. And... well, first off, Whiplash. Deals 396 shadow damage and instantly knocks back all enemies within 5 yards. But the best part of this is it's an area targeted spell. So, let's go test that out. Okay, welcome back everybody, and here we are in the Forlorn Woods, and I'm going to test and see what Whiplash does. I'm going to make my succubus stand over here. No, go away. And we'll use Whiplash right there. Okay, that was interesting. Okay, the succubus also seems to be able to attack from range. That's interesting. Yeah, Lash of Pain has a 20-yard range. That's very interesting. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, come here. I'm going to make my succubus stand over there, and we'll see what happens. Okay, and we're going to make oh, it autocast. Alright. I'm going to turn off autocast, but basically it seems to push the target in the direction that the succubus is facing. So that may be a little bit more difficult to control, but I'm going to test something real quick. I turned it on autocast, off of autocast. Going to put my succubus over here. Let's see. Maybe it's a point of origin based debuff, so let's see what happens if I deploy it here when the center's on the other side. Will it still be a knockback? Yes, it will be. Okay. Okay, so Whiplash knocks targets back in whatever direction the succubus is facing. That'll be a bit difficult to control, but if you're good with it, you can probably use that for Aralthi Basin harassment and ganking people off of cliffs in other unique ways, especially since you're able to have a pet deploy the ability while you watch from afar. So, yeah, that was Lash of Pain. Okay, and we're back with Whiplash back on autocast, and we found an area to test out the Summon Doomguard spell, but before we do that, there's one thing I want to note. The Detect Lesser Invisibility buff that Warlocks had, that's been removed. You can no longer detect invisibility, and yes, mages can still go invisible, and you won't be able to do anything about it if you're a Warlock in PvP. So, yeah, that's a nerf, but yeah, let's not dwell. It's not appropriate for this video anyway, so let's see. Okay. Summoning the Doomguard isn't the same as the Infernal. He doesn't attack stuff automatically. Okay, he doesn't seem to respond to pretty much anything. Okay, let's see what happens when I apply Bane of Agony. Okay, now the Doomguard starts attacking. And he attacks with Doombolt. Okay, let's see. Will I get a bar if I dismiss my succubus? Okay. Bane of Agony. Come on, attack. Doomguard. Okay, so the Doomguard is now a caster-based pet. It no longer has the PvP utilities or the crowd control and stun utilities anymore. It just has Doombolt. I kind of feel like that's a nerf to the Doomguard. Anyway, like I said, summoning the Doomguard or summoning the Infernal will trigger the cooldown. And even though they have the same tooltip that says that they'll both react to targets that are affected by Bane of Agony or Bane of Doom, the Infernal is controllable and will be attacking and recall when you tell it to. The Doomguard, however, will only attack stuff that has Bane of Doom or Bane of Agony on it, and when it does that, you can't call it off. So, yeah, that's useful information for everybody. Okay, next thing. Glyphs. Let's take a look at glyphs. Fell Hunter, it's the same as it always has been. When your Fell Hunter uses Devour Magic, you'll also be healed for that amount. This is a great PvP glyph, and yeah, it's a great PvP glyph. What else can I say? Soul Swap, since you're not allowed to chain it from target to target to target to target, because originally my theory, like I mentioned earlier in the video, was maybe you could pull them off of one target and then apply them onto several different targets. But since you're not allowed to do that, and you have to swap it every single time individually, there's pretty much no point in being able to chain it, because you're probably not going to use it more often than every 10 seconds, because why would you apply to a target that you think is going to die within that amount of time anyway? I mean, they're damage over time effects as it is. So, Soul Swap, pretty nice glyph for Affliction. At first I was conflicted about it, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Maybe not so bad now, since it basically lets you Soul Swap and dot up an ad, rather than having to break your duration of stuff that you have on a boss. So that'll be nice. It'll also be nice in PvP to have this glyph. Shadow Flame, everybody knows Warlock glyphs were pretty sucky, but yeah, Shadow Flame is applied right now for some unknown reason. I logged into my character to find a number of these glyphs applied, even not, I had 3 major glyphs applied, one of them's vanished, and Glyph of Shadow Flame is there for some reason. On the bright side, all of my minor glyphs are still the same. This wasn't the case on my DK. When I logged into my DK to do his video, he had some random glyphs that he had never used before placed in there, so yeah. Anyway, major glyphs first. Death Coil, same as always, increases the duration by 0.5 seconds. Clearly this is a PvP utility based ability, and for some reason, I can't find my Death Coil on my hotbar. Cast Death Coil. Alright. Well, for some reason it's off of my hotbar, but whatever. Okay. So it's not something that you have to talent into or anything. I was afraid of that for a moment. Anyway, back to glyphs. Glyph of Demonic Circle reduces the cooldown on Demonic Circle by 4 seconds. And the Soulburn for it is movement speed increased by 50% for 8 seconds. We all know what that does. 3-second cooldown at present. Yeah, everybody knows what that is. Here's a new major glyph, and it's one that I have in my bags. Glyph of Fear. Your fear causes the target to tremble in place instead of fleeing in fear, but now causes fear to have a 5-second cooldown. I have mixed feelings about this. This is absolutely great in terms of direct and significant crowd control. Fear is sometimes used as a crowd control ability, like Polymorph, and this is essentially turning Fear into a Polymorph, from any practical standpoint. You can still break Fear on damage, so Fear is probably just going to be another crowd control spell in progression rating. However, this may not be the best thing when you're leveling up and when you're grinding, because a lot of times you'd use Fear to try to aggro other stuff, and you do this intentionally, and this was a tactic that I used while I was doing quests that allowed me to kill lots of mobs very quickly because I could aggro them without having to go near them. And I leveled as an Affliction Warlock, so personally, if you're leveling a Warlock and you are going to grind and do lots of quests and kill lots of mobs and stuff like that, I don't think you should take this glyph. Not until you hit max level and use it as a real crowd control spell, or use it in instances, dungeons, raids, and the like, because that's where this is going to be really useful. For grinding and leveling, not so much if your intention is to aggro other mobs, which it will often be when you're grinding and doing lots of quests. So, yeah. Apply it, but be prepared to remove it and replace it with something else depending on what you're doing at the time.